Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you today to tread lightly upon this ground. You got to take care of where you stand, because here lies, right here, one of only 48 men who gave birth to the state of Mississippi. In fact, it was 200 years ago this year that took place. And this right here is the last resting place of one of our founders and one of the architects of our great state. In his lifetime, Dougald McLaughlin would have been as well known along this Pearl River as anybody else, and more so in many ways. In many ways more known than the Reverend John Ford, who we are all familiar with. In fact, McLaughlin owned more land, more slaves, and his palatial house was much grander than the John Ford home. And it lies, the remnants of it lies not too far from here, between here and the river. It was much larger, more beautiful. It no longer stands, but Reverend John Ford's does, which may help explain why we know a lot about the Reverend John Ford, in part, and we know very little about Dougald McLaughlin. The road to Mississippi statehood began with the creation of the Mississippi Territory in 1798. Mississippi's next step toward statehood was the Enabling Act of 1817, dividing the original Mississippi Territory along the Tombigbee River, with the eastern half becoming Alabama and the western half, of course, Mississippi. Citizens of the western half then held elections for a constitutional convention and formed a state government. On July 7th of 1817, 48 men representing the territory convened and formed a state government. The man that rests before you was one of those men. They met in the town of Washington, Mississippi, located right outside Natchez, for the convention. And there the members, 48 of them, wrote and signed the original Mississippi Constitution of 1817. That created our state. And shortly thereafter, in December 10th exactly, of 1817, this 200 years ago this year, the state of Mississippi was formed. Long ago, grave robbers that defiled this man's grave, digging out the suspected riches that they thought was held within. I'm told that some kindly neighbors in this area reburied the man's remains, but the proper honors and the remembrances have never been restored until today. So I'm thankful and grateful that you're here to help share in that. Marion County was very fortunate to have a man like Dougald McLaughlin. He was an early pioneer, a citizen, a planner, a judge, a politician. He helped establish Marion County and the city of Columbia. Perhaps his most important testimony of his character is that he was one of the very few revered and esteemed men entrusted by his fellow citizens to go and consider the state constitution and sign it. That was 200 years ago this year. I say it's sad, and it's no little injustice that this man is so long forgotten and now lies abused and neglected in his final resting place. And it is my hope, and perhaps yours as well, that in the future we can work towards maybe reversing this injustice and placing a marker here for all of Mississippi to be proud of. Today we place a wreath codified with the colors of Mississippi and America as a remembrance to Dougald McLaughlin.